Gale and Hardwick are two of their most influential, probably ever figures. You wonder what the path is forward for both. You wonder whether Brendan says, I've achieved all I can do here in the AFL. I can be the next AFL CEO if I take that job, Lord Owen and Kane. And then I don't know about Damien. It's a long time. They're at the crossroads.
Yeah, what I'll say is if you lose Peggy O'Neill, who has been amazing for Richmond, you lose Brendan Gale.
Trent Cotchin. Do you say, OK, losing Damien Hardwick as well is just too much change? So unless he's lost the players and players go, do you know what, I just need a fresh voice, but there wouldn't be too many of them because most have left anyway. I'd hang on to Damien Hardwick because of the amount of change that's coming at Richmond. Hutchie, the performance was a mess, and speaking of Damien Hardwick, they kicked 2 goals in the first half against a side that is ranked 13th. He was remaining upbeat after the game.
Yeah, I'm the eternal optimist. I still think our best is good enough, but the fact of the matter is we're a long way off that at the moment, and we've got to figure out how the hell we get back to what we need to be.
I think you picked up on this a few weeks ago, Carrie, but clearly someone is giving him the right media advice now because his demeanour has completely changed from what it once was.
You're the media journalist, you figure it out.
No, how does it impact the club, though?
Next question.
No, how does it impact the
Next
club?
question.
No.
Thanks, Tony.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on, mate, give me a scrap.
Yes.
I'd really love to see Kane.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. That's his job.
Sure.
He's there to write comments.
Okay. Mate, I hate coming here. Probably shouldn't say that, but...
Why's that?
Hey?
Why's that?
Well, the MCG has got soul. It's got Richmond people there. Our people don't come here. Plain and simple. It's rather than broadcast, is it? So that's... But I've listened to the broadcast recently. They're not great.
So his demeanour and I guess his attitude has changed, and I think that's for the better, but that's what people from Richmond loved about him. That's what his players loved about him, that combative nature, and you can get away with it when you're winning premierships, when 75,000 turn up to watch you play. You can't get away with it when you're losing and kicking 4 goals against the 13th ranked team at Marvel. So it's going to be really interesting to your point,
Something's not right, Matthew. Something's not right. Well, I'm not saying he's lost the players. But 14 years is a long time to coach one's team. And I still see Alistair Clarkson as a cautionary tale. I know I keep saying it, and I think there are much better people surrounding Damien Hardwick than there were with Alistair as the dynasty dropped off.
So, Cara, you're saying you'd move on Damien Hardwick?
I'm not saying I would necessarily this year, but I think we're coming to the end. And I think Richmond should start looking at a new succession plan and a new coaching plan. I reckon definitely by the end of next year and potentially earlier.
One of the challenges that they're now finding themselves in...
For both parties,
he's been able to get maximum performance out of mid-tier player, right? But when you've got too many mid-tier players, that inevitably ends. And you just wonder about their recruiting in recent years. Like, I feel like the way they're coached is wallpapered a bit over the way they've recruited in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't see a lot of...
You're saying system over talent?
Yeah, I don't see a lot of huge success stories on this page in the last 4 or 5. And that catches you at the end.
But what I say, though, is, and I'm massive, 3 flags in the last 7 years. That's going to happen. So imagine you could say to every single club, you're going to win 3 flags, but in 4 years after that, you're in all sorts of trouble. You'd take it, wouldn't you?
100%, but I don't think you sell the future to remain up the top. And I guess the influence over the team that Hardwick has had to give up a pick 3 in the draft for Hopper as it stands now, plus the other 3 picks for Taranto. That's overstating where your list is at.
Regardless of the lack of access to the draft, that's not great drafting in the last 5 years.
But their drafting is because when you win flags, what sort of draft picks do you get? Terrible draft.
That's a reasonable sample size of not finding 1 or 2.
I disagree about Sonsi. I disagree about Cumberland. Violi showed a lot of promise last year. Gibcus is another one.
Can you build a team around them, though?
Well, it's too early to say. I mean, Gibcus will be a defender. You might start to build a defence around in a few years.
It kills you, though, the decisions to give away those top-end picks inside the top 5 for players who are B-grade midfielders and are just plodding through, not having the impact that they thought they would have.
Out west, the tide has turned. We'll talk about the media attention in a moment. What should Adam Simpson do? He too didn't have many answers after the game.
And we got tipped over today, but that's going to happen. Unfortunately, for where we're at the moment, we don't accept it and we want to respond as quick as we can, but we got touched up today. Inability to stop it was a challenge for us up in the box and for the players as well, so we don't have to dig too deep on this one.
And it's been a largely unscrutinised footy club out west, I think, for a long time. That has changed. The West Australian is covering it aggressively and straight to the point. There was a leader or an editorial today. There was an extraordinary in memoriam on the front page of the only newspaper in town, the West Australian,
This is an amazing turn of events.
I disagree with that. It hasn't been covered for 3 years. I've been saying that, but they've been for 3 years. I've said they're in denial. The standards have slipped. They're overweight.
Out west.
In Perth.
I wrote for the paper out west, Hutchie. But for 3 years, I've been saying
the tide's turned. You've been strong in Perth. For the first time, the Eagles are being smashed on a daily basis by the West Australian. I've never seen this before. I mean, I go back to the drug scandal and Ben Cousins and the hate mail we in Victoria received for covering it.
So is it too much to bear for the coach? We've discussed this at length. It feels to me like they need a circuit breaker, like Adam Simpson is out of answers. Lord, I think you said yesterday he looks exhausted. Yeah. How can he cope with pressure like that if this is going to be a daily occurrence?
I can't see him surviving beyond this
What
year.
else should happen there, you think?
Well, I think they need a big change, shake-up administratively on and off the field. I mean, all those old players, high performance has been a disaster. They need to change their football operation. I mean, there's so many things that Trevor Nisbet has been a great CEO. I know he's made mistakes in the past, but I'm a Trevor Nisbet supporter. But I think they've all got to look at themselves now.
They wouldn't be top 5 or 6 in any category in the competition other than Money in the Bank.
But the amazing thing,
in terms of the way they go about
to
their business,
me, is that 47,000 people turned up to watch that. Their crowd and their support is phenomenal. They've got such an advantage with that, but they're quickly going to drop off and not turn up if they keep serving that up.
Adam Simpson wasn't convincing. I mean, that's going to happen. Why is it going to happen?
Yep.
Why has it been so many years that they've been so hopeless so soon after the
why have they been
flag?
in denial for 3 years?